Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that always has motive, mostly just because we're called a podcast. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Fridays or available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Aaron Dasser.
I'm your host, Aaron Dasser, and he's both a person of interest and an interesting person. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
Ahoy.
Each week we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. He woke the bear from its sleep, but now he's crying when it tangos. It's Ian!
You stole my favorite line from the movie. That's not even a saying.
In any culture.
Yeah.
That's not even a saying in any culture. It's good to have you back, Ian. How's stuff going?
Good to be back. I have a question. Do you have like a point where you start the live from a bunker? Because I'm sure you I feel like you start it earlier every time I get here.
No,
like,
no,
I started way early. Like really early.
That was the exact same point that I always start it. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Other than that,
other than I hate the way you started the podcast, I'm all good. No, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. Mm-hmm. We had to have you on because geographically, you're so close to Italy. There.
Wow. Although Missouri was mentioned way more than England.
That's right. That's right.
Which is beautiful.
You know what I love the most about that whole thing? Is everybody in the world wonders, what would it be like to live in Venice?
Mm-hmm.
Turns out everybody in Venice, where do they want to live?
Missouri. Thank you very much.
Two post-war Hungarians that currently live on the street that live in Venice would rather live in Missouri.
Don't take this from us, Ian. Don't take this from us. How dare you? All we have is Jason Bourne's birthplace. We could use a little more.
Yeah, and I've only had that house
Brad
pointed
Pitt.
out. Oh wait, no, and Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's brother or something. I have that pointed out.
Well, he still lives here.
Time.
Yeah.
That's
Doug.
where Brad Pitt's brother live. Yeah, Doug Pitt, which I don't believe that's his name.
We just call him Doug.
Yeah.
You don't have to use the last name when you see him. Well, it's good to have you, whatever the case. We are going to talk about A Haunting in Venice, which does take place in Venice, Italy, and Equalizer 3, which, strangely enough, also in Italy. So it's a very Italian movie lineup today. We'll, of course, do Best Ever Challenge. This time, Best Ever Kenneth Branagh movies acting. So movies in which Branagh has acted in.
Whoops.
And it's still time to shuffle them up, Ian.
Good
Not
job,
for the
Ian.
graphics, right?
Proud of you, buddy.
And then, of course, a buried treasure at the end. But no need to dilly-dally. Let's get to the hauntings with A Haunting in Venice. Celebrated sleuth Hercule Poirot, now retired and living in self-imposed exile in Venice, reluctantly attends a Halloween seance at a decaying haunted palazzo. When one of the guests is murdered, the detective is thrust into a sinister world of shadows and secrets. This is the third movie in the Poirot series from Kenneth Branagh. And he gets to play the character once again with the double-decker mustache and all that comes along with it. That wonderful French accent that he loves.
Belgium accent. I've had to stop from cutting you off so many times. It's Hercule, no H, and he's from Belgium, not France.
I'm sorry. Are we in America? You do understand, like, things are pronounced differently here, right?
They don't have to be.
I will correct all your English pronunciations on names from here on out.
Double day, yeah.
But yes, Hercule.
Hercule.
Yeah,
The Minky is the businessman.
Hercule, is that right? Hercule?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you.
I don't know, I'm not French.
Okay, I got it. Hercule Poirot
No, yeah.
Now retired and living in Venice. Anyways, what did you think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or was just okay? Ian.
It's all a bit silly. See what I did there? Silly. Just silly. It's just okay.
Ian says just okay. Andrew?
I'm going just a little bit low side of okay.
Low side of okay. Guys, I loved this movie.
You did not.
No, I really, really did. I had such a good time with this film.
I would have never bet that. That's fascinating.
Well, that's
I can't
fun.
wait to hear. That's awesome.
That's fun.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
I'm glad that you wouldn't. I was surprised to hear some more negative feedback online after I saw it, because I had such a good time with this movie. I think everybody is so well cast. It is a perfect murder mystery, in my opinion, in the way that it treats its characters, its clues, all those kind of things. It was so much fun and so good for me. I knew exactly what happened, like from like the first clue they dropped about it, and still loved the entire thing. Like it was just like it had me in its palm. I like how it was shot. I like how creepy it was. I am in love with the sense of humor of these movies, and really, really just like those little bits and pieces. I thought the Tina Fey, Hercule Poirot stuff really worked well. So, yeah, I had a really good time with it. What are some of the things you guys liked about it, about this one? Andrew, why don't you start?
I want to talk about performances. Not everybody was good. There's a couple that I question the auditioning, or I mean the casting of certain people. But Jude Hill was amazing in this. Again, he is Jamie Dornan's son for the second movie that we've seen. This so is Belfast. Yeah, he was really, really good in this one. Also, Kenneth Branagh, he has a way of just losing himself in this role, and I love that about him. It reminds me a lot of how Daniel Craig loses himself in Benoit Blanc. Is that how you correctly pronounce that, Ian? Benoit Blanc?
That's actually Benoit White.
Benoit White. Okay. Benoit Blanc. But no, I love the way that he just immerses himself, because whenever I'm watching these movies, I don't see Kenneth Branagh up there. I do see Poirot. Wow, I've done it. I've ruined you all. Yes. No, it's Hercule Poirot. There you go. Hercule.
Slight roll on.
So, yeah, that's my first pro. Is that I like some of the performances. There are some really impressive, and I guess my next pro would be that I feel you can kind of lose yourself in this environment fairly easily.
Ian, do you have anything good to say about the movie?
Oh yeah, no, plenty. Like I didn't like it.
That's true. That's true. You both said it was okay. Andrew a little lower than okay, but yeah, on the lower side of okay. I mean,
this is the second movie in a row where I haven't necessarily had a great time with the movie, but been kept in my seat and with a huge smile on my face by Kenneth Branagh's Poirot. He is incredible. When I watched Murder on the Orient Express, I was so skeptical because David Suchet is my Poirot. Like he has done, I think he's done every single Agatha Christie Poirot story, and he's incredible. So nothing could compare. And then Kenneth Branagh comes and just blows it out of the park for me with his own take on him that's really confident and really unique. And this is, I think I like him the most in this movie. I completely agree with you, Aaron. The humor is spot on. The bounce back between him and Tina Fey, considering this is the first movie we've seen her in, it's like she's been there for all three. Like their chemistry is excellent. The humor is spot on. I'm really glad how much time we had with Poirot in this movie. It's by far and away the most entertaining part for me, which is good considering it's his movie. That's a really
yes, it should be a starting place.
Yeah, I still want more of these movies. He's excellent.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I come down to. And again, I did love this movie, and I actually think it's as good as the first one. I love both the first and the third. I think the second is a pretty big miss, and we've obviously we reviewed it here. We've talked about it before. But I really did feel like this was back to form. And one of the things I really liked here that I really didn't like in the second one is I think the themes that they were going for in this one locked in a lot better for me than the second one. They felt a little more forced in the second one, a little more overt and try-hardy, if you will. The mustache stuff, you know, like shaving them, like
completely unrelated to anything.
Well, they thought it was related, like they were trying to do something there. But here, I really like that the journey he's going through is his own haunting. He is haunted by this past version of him. Tina Fey is in a way trying to seance to bring him back from the dead. Like there's this real idea that what Poirot is going through kind of mirrors the afterlife in some ways. He's in his afterlife and is trying not to be brought back, you know, to the world. And then, of course, the movie. You know what? I was just going to say how the movie ends, but that would be spoiling it. So not going to do that. But let's just say it works with the theme, right? Like there's a real theme where there's a conclusion.
Ghostbusters will come back from the dead and they wrap up the mystery.
It's amazing. Yeah. They have a full garden of these, you know, ghost traps that are linked together. It's wild. You'd have never predicted it. So anyhow, that is, and again, if you know me, which you probably do, the theme is always going to weigh heavily on me, and because it worked so well for me, that's really one of the reasons I love the movie. So what are some of your other thoughts? Good, bad, whatever. Let's get into it. What are some of the things that other things that you love, or things that, you know, kept you from really loving it? Those kind of things.
There are moments in this movie that the movie thinks it's being Shutter Island, when in reality it comes across as Disney's Haunted Mansion. Like, the haunting stuff didn't work for me in this movie. I thought that this movie thought it was being a lot creepier and, you know, terrifying than it actually was. Like, there were people in my theater who were actually kind of giggling at some of the jump scare stuff, like how silly some of them felt. So yeah, if this is supposed to be the scariest of all of Agatha Christie's, it's not the fact that I don't like haunted, you know, scary movies, because this isn't a scary movie. I don't think. I think it's a straight up whodunit film. But I think that the movie wants you to think that it's a horror film too.
I don't know if the movie wants you to think it's a horror film. I think it wants you to feel the tone.
Well, suspense thriller.
I think it wants you to feel the you know, the tonal shift. Yeah, I think expectations probably play a lot into that. I was not expecting it to be a scary movie or a horror movie. I was expecting it to be a spiritually themed murder mystery, you know, like to deal with the other side. So I can see how you would look at some of those moments and think they're a little bit, you know, amusement park ride or whatever the case may be. For me, my expectations were on the murder mystery. So for me, it was just part of this is... Like, I wasn't scared, but then again, I'm not necessarily scared at a lot of movies. And I didn't feel like the movie wanted me to be scared as much as it wanted to put me in a different atmosphere or tone. But yeah, I can see that perspective for sure. Ian?
For me, that's the part of the movie that didn't work the most for me and was the most distracting. It felt like, hey, we have an opportunity to do a horror adjacent Poirot where we can jump genres a little bit, but it was really distracting for me. So like the Dutch angles, the jump scares, that flipping parrot that would just out of nowhere.
That's what people were laughing at.
That, and you make a good point, Aaron. Like it is just the shift of tone, and it is the movie like having the opportunity to put us in that environment. But for me, I think it crossed too far into seriously trying to be horror. Like, I think the movie was trying to scare us and to be spooky, but it just didn't work for me. It felt really, really distracting. There is an element to the story that rescues it a little bit that I don't want to spoil, but overall, that being a horror movie thing just didn't work for me.
I think the element you're talking about, if I'm guessing correctly, I wonder if that's part of the problem. Part of the problem is we're dealing with a movie that is making a point about spiritualism in some ways, in seances and those kind of things, and is doing it in a way where the clues to the murder mystery are the primary thing, right? So they're creating a world where they can't do a typical horror movie scare that doesn't fit in with the murder mystery they're presenting. I'm trying to walk around this a little bit, but
yeah,
do you understand what I'm saying? So I wonder if they're kind of handcuffed to do what they do, because their point is to create, you know, a legitimate murder mystery that works, which I think they did. I think the murder mystery part of this really holds together when you think back on it.
Well, I mean, but that's the part the movie didn't get to pick. But
see, this is stuff I don't know, because I was under the impression, like with the first couple, that they changed some stuff.
Oh, honestly, I don't know. I know it's based on one of her stories. I don't know if any.
My understanding was that they are tweaking these stories.
Okay, that may well be right.
It may well be wrong as well, but that's just what I remember hearing. We need a fact checker or somebody on this.
Wouldn't it be nice if we had that on here?
From what I remember, I don't think they changed Murder on the Orient Express that much. It seemed to be. That's the only one that I've read. I haven't read any of the other ones.
Okay.
But again, it's been forever since I've read that book.
Take everything we say with an entire pillar of salt. Yeah,
an entire streaky pillar of salt.
Yeah,
so much salt.
So I want to push back a little bit on what you said, Aaron, because I agree. You have to have some of those jump scare moments because the characters are being jump scared as much as we are. But there are some editing choices with the sudden noises and the increase in like that shrieking score that happens when a door slams open. The parrot flying, the parrot flying at you, which has nothing to do with anything. You keep saying
parrot, it's Poirot. I don't know if you don't understand how the pronunciation works.
It's how it's pronounced in America.
The
Hercules parrot.
Whoa, Ian. Whoa, settle down.
Goodness. The avian, the non-avian dinosaur. The dinosaur flies. That kind of stuff has nothing to do with the story. That for me felt like, ooh, this is one of our opportunities. Like, it's not often we're going to have Poirot in a Conjuring type environment. So let's make the most of it and let's get some of those horror jump scares. And it's no coincidence that this is coming out in the middle of September, leading up to Halloween as well. So I think, I think I'm not giving the movie in that much credit. I think they are trying to tap into the horror crowd, and I think it's to the detriment of the murder mystery for me.
I do wonder how much is intentional. I do wonder how much of it is intended to be like an amusement park ride. Like how much of it is a way to echo a seance where it's like an amusement, park ride that there's somebody in the chimney and it's, it seems silly and fake because it is, silly and fake or whatever.
Seance, that makes complete sense because it's so easy for Parrot to unravel the whole thing so quickly and so immediately. So yeah, that I completely buy. But the stuff that happens after that, it felt a bit more like taking advantage of the opportunity.
I do love that we got a double denouement, which is self-contradictory, I believe. But like that we get two instant. It's like Glass Onion had this too, where we get two big like explanation scenes from our favorite detective in the same movie.
It was brilliant. I kind of wanted the movie to end there. I was like, this is all I came for. I just didn't want Poirot to end up a quote unquote believer. Like I could have left.
Didn't make sense.
Half an hour movie done.
Yeah.
That part didn't make sense to me, and I'm going to try and talk around it as best I can because he proved his point after, like, in that moment, like when he went to the chimney and stuff like that. He proved his point, and yet there were still people believing.
Andrew. Andrew. You poor soul. You think facts are going to change people's minds? Yeah. I kid you not. The psychic herself, Michelle Yeoh, could have said, I am taking the mickey here. I am lying. And the exact same people in that room would have said, no, but you just don't know it. You are a psychic, but you don't know it.
And the movie makes a point of this, by the way, with the brother character. The brother character who says, no, she's like, he does the tricks for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
he believes. Yeah.
And he still believes.
Just to butter it up. This is just to convince the people that don't believe.
So the movie is making that point as well, that, you know, people believe what they want to believe or need to believe.
So. It's the Mulder effect.
Yes, I want to believe. Exactly. Other thoughts on A Haunting in Venice?
No post-credit scene.
That is true.
It's beautiful. Like I didn't like the Dutch angles and whatnot and all of that stuff, but I mean, yeah, Venice is beautiful.
I kind of liked the Dutch angles. Can we talk about them for a second? The movie throws them in our face, like right at the beginning. Like
from the beginning. That's all. But
I kind of loved it because, again, like a lot in this movie. Okay, so I'm probably giving credit where credit isn't due. That is probably happening here. But this movie seemed to be like, yeah, to me, I know what I'm doing. These are severe Dutch angles, but look how it's framed. Like the framing on them was so interesting. The statues and the seagull and, you know, all leading up to that first, you know, wake scare, you know, that we have or whatever. I really liked all that stuff.
The shots that I really liked were the stationary ones. There are some shot compositions in this movie that are chef's kiss, so good. For me, the Dutch angles are some of the worst parts of horror. So, like, if you're going to do a horror thing, I didn't like that the movie incorporated that in. I was like, you're picking the wrong bits from the genre to make this what I personally like about horror and want to have in here.
I need to look this up, and so I'm going to, but I am almost sure that the aspect ratio on this was 5:3.
It did feel different.
I think this was like, which by the way, I just recently did research on this. But the 5:3.
No, you knew this. Don't you explain this away.
Sure, okay. My vast cinema knowledge, aspect ratio is always my favorite thing to look at. The 5:3 ratio is a European ratio. It is European cinema used 5:3. Back in the day when the US was using 4:3. 4:3 is what you're used to on the square televisions kind of thing. 5:3 is a little bit wider, but not quite as wide as the 1.771 or 2.161. Is that the really ultra wide one? Whatever. Listen, I don't know any of this stuff. But anyways, they talked about 5:3 being this really great way to build atmosphere and close-ups because of the way it locks the screen down a little bit, and you don't have to worry about like the rule of thirds when you're in expanded and how far they go towards the side. So you can have like bigger close-ups because everything looks good. Everything you put in 5:3 feels like it locks into like the rule of thirds and different things like that.
Way.
So like a Rear Window was shot in 5:3. Just as an example. So yeah, I found that really interesting. And again, I didn't quite have a chance to Google the ratio. I mean, I could be totally wrong about that.
Well, you Google, because I do have one other camera thing that I really liked, and there's a shot where Poirot was at his most confused and spooked, and they do this like, I can't remember what it's called. It's like a body cam, steady cam thing that's attached to his body, and it just gives this like a visceral feeling as he's running through the house, and we're just focused on his face as he's like jogging. And that's just a thing. Yeah, it's just a thing I didn't. Well, it's not POV because we're looking at him, not his POV. It's the opposite. We're kind of focused on him as he's running, and it's just not a shot that I expected.
In those shots.
Horror movie. Okay. I really liked it. That for me worked really well as showing how unsettled he was, rather than the Dutch angles and jump scares.
So confirmation, it is enclosed a little bit more, but it's 1.851, which is more like 5.5, 3. So it's a little wider than 5.3.
I'm not interested then.
But it's definitely an intentional. It's definitely an intentional thing he did for this movie to close it in a little bit more, take advantage of those close-ups, and I think the movie's better for it. I think the cinematography is just gorgeous. So, yeah. Well, there you go. That is our thoughts on A Haunting in Venice. That is available in theaters, and who knows for how long, but I recommend checking it out. You guys, would you give it a recommend even though you just kind of liked it? Or you thought it was okay?
If you like
Yeah.
Poirot films, yes, absolutely, because this is still a good Kenneth Branagh Poirot film for sure.
It's
There you
better
go.
than the second one. It's not as good as the first one.
I've had ingrowing toenails that are better than the second one.
It's an amazing movie. It's an amazing movie, Ian. All right, let's
one
continue on. Let's talk about Equalizer 3. Robert McCall finds himself at home in southern Italy, but he discovers his friends are under the control of a ghost. No, a local crime bosses.
what?
As events turn deadly, McCall knows what he has to do. Become his friend's protector by taking on the mafia. Denzel coming back to play this character one more time. What did you guys think about The Equalizer 3? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or was just okay? Andrew.
Didn't see
it. Ian.
You know where I am on this because I watched this a couple of weeks ago. High side of liked it.
High side of liked it. I wondered if you'd creep into loved it. I wondered if you'd creep in.
No, not quite there. Over time, maybe.
I'm on the low side of liked it. So I liked it as well. Yes, it is correct. Andrew, you did not get a chance to see this.
I did see the first one.
But did you see the second one?
No.
Okay. All right. Ian, have you seen the first and the second one?
I watched the first and the second the day before going to see the third. And
Smart
I
man.
think that really helps.
Yeah.
But I remember enjoying the first and I hadn't seen the second.
First one was really good.
The first one is incredible. That last scene with the song's called Vengeance, and that's playing as he goes through the Home Depot Home Alone is so good.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah.
I've seen the first and the second. I don't know if it's a hot take. I think the second is even better than the first, and I think the first is pretty good. Do you not like the second, or you just don't think it's better than the first?
I don't think it's better than the first. It's fine. It's fine, but for me it fell quite a few notches down from the first.
Yeah, I like what it's doing. So let's talk about this third one then. Ian, you liked it a little bit more than me, so talk about what you loved about this one.
A lot of what I like about this one is what I didn't like about the last one. For me, the second one was taking on too many themes and had its fingers in too many pies, and for me, lost some of the personal mission that he had. This, even more than the first one, I get why A, he's reluctant to fight, and B, why he has to fight. And you get those two things nailed in with this character, and I'm all in. Like, it absolutely gets that right. He is here to live a peaceful life and to fully retire, and even the way he picks the village feels authentic, and it very much picks him. And how things go sideways.
I was going to say, it wasn't my interpretation that he was looking to retire.
No.
Oh,
so
okay.
I didn't mean, if I said that, I didn't mean to.
Okay.
More that he ends up retiring here and finds the place that he's supposed to be. And just the way that turns on its head into him choosing violence and defending a new place that he's found, it just felt so authentic. This wasn't like, it's fine if he defends a stranger and comes to their rescue. It feels even more authentic to me if I get why he cares and why he's doing what he's doing. There's a couple of elements that are missing that I would have liked to see, but overall, that core story of why he's doing what he's doing, I had goosebumps throughout most of the film. I enjoyed it so much.
I'm interested to hear what you think is missing. I agree. I think the biggest thing this movie has going for it is that it is a really well-structured character story.
Yes.
It is like you are in league with the McCall character from beginning to end. You understand all of his motivations. You know exactly where he is. The movie isn't trying to do what so many modern movies do, where it's like, oh, what if this guy's actually a bad guy? You know, or oh,
what if there's some secret society that's coming after him that he was a member of, like going the John Wick route.
Right. Yeah.
Really
so
tight.
it's interesting to me to just see a movie just go, we know what we are. We are a vigilante story. That's what this is. This is a man who is a vigilante. This is, I really think this is a superhero movie. I believe that what we're dealing with here comes from the same place Superman comes from, which is we know there are bad guys doing bad stuff. It happens. I feel powerless. I don't know how to stop that. I don't have the skills or the desire to be violent. I don't know what to do. Superman can save us. Like, you know, it really kind of comes from that same place, and then mixes in the Batman vigilante thing. Like, this
is a better Dark Knight Rises than the Dark Knight Rises. It truly is.
So I think this is a superhero movie in that way, in that this is a character that we get behind and we find ourselves rooting for because they are the one who has come to save us. It's a savior story, you know. There's a savior element to it, and so yeah, I think that's where the movie succeeds the best. Yeah. I think is really painting that picture. These movies have all helped us understand, like, the people he is hurting / killing are all bad people, and I have my own philosophical issues with the idea of a person being completely bad or completely good. Which this movie kind of touches on a little bit, actually, with an interesting, like,
oh my goodness, yeah,
question about are you a good person or a bad person?
I love that.
But the movie is very content to go, oh no, these people are all just bad people. They're just all like completely 100%.
These are cartoon villains.
These are people that deserve to die. I need you to know this. They all deserve to die. He's doing a good by slicing their throats, like that.
Short of them like killing puppies on screen, there's not much. There's no nuance to the bad guy in this movie.
No nuance, which I think has philosophical ramifications as we live our lives, especially in a polarized society. I do think that has negative ramifications. However, the movie plays that in a way that I think really works if you're going to see a compelling story. I believe this is absolutely a compelling story. So I think that's the best thing the movie has going for it.
I almost think the movie doesn't give itself enough credit that we'll root for McCall. Even if these guys aren't 100% bad, like, they don't have to be cartoon villains. I get it; they have to be. Like,
I think they do.
You think I don't think it works. I
don't think it works if they're nuanced.
Right. As I was saying it, you might be right, but I just know that I would be rooting for him if he was probably killing good guys. I'm the problem. The problem.
So let's get into that part of it, which I think hits you better than it hits me, which is oh my goodness, how cool is like the way he's killing people, which is, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't have that part in me. I'm just saying I usually listen to that part and go, no, that's not a good part of me. Let's quiet that part, you know.
Well, that's exactly how I went into this movie, because the third time out, like, that works great in the first film because it's unique, it's new, and there's a lot of stuff in that first film that I really like some technical things they do that I really like. By the time we get to the third entry, I'm like, I need something more. If you're going to make a third movie out of this, I need more than the I know Kung Fu stuff. Having said that, it's still done so well in this movie. There's not a huge amount of I know Kung Fu, but what he does do, specifically the first big showdown when they're in that restaurant and how he dominates that man and his henchmen with words as much as force is incredible. And I was like, you got me. Dang it, movie. You got me with your equalizing. It's so good. The fighting isn't my favorite part of this movie at all. I don't think it's done as well as the first one, but how it's used, there's enough of it in there for me to still recognize this as the Equalizer brand. But the fact that it focuses on this tight story in the third entry, like, the temptation is always to go bigger. This is the smallest story. I know he's taking on the whole of the Italian mafia, but put that to one side. At its core, this is the smallest story that I think we've seen them do.
It's such a beautiful and natural way that we get into the plot, too.
Yes.
Like, and the bookend of our entry into what's going on is what the movie is trying to say. It's, you know, the idea of what's in the duffel bag, and that's all I'll say, is the heart and soul of this character is what's in the duffel bag.
It's so good.
So yeah, and it's really good, and it's that stuff. I'm just like, oh, I love that. I wish you could arrest people. You know,
I wish he didn't have to literally murder them. I like this movie just kept surprising me because we without giving too much away, something big happens at the beginning, and I kind of felt we're gonna slump a bit here and have to wait until we get back into what I want to see. But it uses that time so well. I just wanted an entire movie of it. I didn't care if we ever got to the fighting. Like, I loved watching his adjustment to this Italian village. Just so well done. Such a hard trick to pull off.
How did you feel about Dakota Fanning and the stuff around her character?
She was in this movie.
I think it's the weakest part of the movie. I don't think she's the weakest part of the movie. No. I think she's great. And in fact, this is a different kind of role than I think I've ever really, seen her do. And I really kind of liked her in this. I just think that stuff feels tacked on. I think that you could have the bookends without it, and you could have everything else without it. And the movie is just as good and maybe even a little more focused.
I know.
The only thing I can think is they're setting up future movies, maybe like this, some sort of team kind of thing.
I didn't, maybe, but I didn't feel that. It felt more
because David Denman's not a bad actor either, and like he's barely in this. So yeah.
What was the runtime on this? It was like the shortest of all of them, wasn't it? An
149.
149, yeah. Almost feel like it was a little runtime paddy. Like they have this core story, and they had some extra time to do something else, and it is tied into the core of his character, but it still feels tacked in, and it's an extra bit of heart that it didn't need.
No, it doesn't need it. I will say I really did like their first cafe scene together. I thought the dialogue in that scene was really fun and sharp.
And it's Denzel delivering it as well, like just reading the phone book.
Yeah, I do wonder if they're setting up a team here with him and her.
Yeah, so. I'd be here for it. I think we're kind of used to her stealing the stage and like stealing every movie that she's in. That when she does something that's pretty normal like this, we're like, "Huh, what happened?" But she's fine. She's doing exactly what she needs to do. I don't feel like the story needed it. It felt out of place.
I will also say, and then Andrew, I want to hear like any questions that you have for us. But I will also say this movie is not without tropes. There are plenty of tropey things that happen that lead, to situations where how is this bad guy not shot his gun yet? Like that kind. Like there's.
I've hyped this up way more than you can never possibly like it as much as I've talked about it.
So there are plenty of action tropes in this movie. I will also say, just to put it in there, that my biases also keep me probably from loving a movie like this, and when it deals with violence and my own pacifism and especially gun violence. Although the creativity here is what I'm talking about, as opposed to just taking a gun and just, shooting a bunch of people. Guns are used to kill here, not just with bullets. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Andrew, any questions you have for us?
Yeah, something that I really enjoyed about the first film, and maybe you can tell me if this is expanded on in the second or the third film, is the fact that we don't know anything about this guy. He is a complete mystery in that first film, unlike John Wick, who is, I think, the biggest or the easiest comparison, the John Wick franchise and the Equalizer franchise, from what I've seen anyway. But I love the fact that how in Equalizer, we don't get that exposition drop from, the mob. Like he was, an assassin for a long time. And then he went his own way because he fell in love with his wife. We don't get, a story like that in the first one. Is anything expanded to where you kind of get to know Robert a little bit more in the second or the third movie? Or do they keep it a secret?
Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, you get a little bit of that in the second one. That's kind of a lot of the second one is about his mentor and the person that helped him get out of the job that he was in. So the second one is your movie for that. But again, I think it's to the movie's detriment, to be honest.
No, that's what I was going to say. I didn't want to know.
Yeah,
I didn't want to know about him.
I'm fine with the story itself, but I think it's telling us something I didn't need to know. The third movie, a small smidgen, but really not much at all. No, that's mainly the second movie's job.
Because I really enjoyed the mystery of him. You know, the mystery, not knowing anything about him, is what made him seem that much more dangerous.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, yeah.
I think the Equalizer. Oh, we've done a lot of weird Wick comparisons, but I'll keep going with them. I think the Equalizer does a better job at maintaining what John Wick did in the first movie that it kind of dropped for the other movies. Like this feels like a John Wick 1 movie. Like it just feels like the motivations are clear, the story is compelling. It's not just all about the violence scenes. And there's only like 3, maybe 4 of them. So and they're big set pieces, and they're cool shooty, stabby violent stuff. Like they definitely they really do go for it, but the human stuff is here in a way that I think the John Wick movies have lost because they're trying to do more fantasy world building, whatever they're trying to do. But this series has kept it in an interesting way. And I don't think it's gone too heavy on his exposition. I still think he's a man of mystery. I don't think we know a ton about him. There are some connections this movie has to the other movies. I won't give those away. But if you have watched the other movies, there will be story reveals and things that may be interesting to you. So, but that's not the heart of this movie. That's just a part
to
of
its benefit.
Movie. Yeah. Anything else?
There's no post-credit scene.
Is there a post-credit scene?
No, there isn't.
No.
I really enjoyed the cinematography and the way that Antoine Fuqua captured his cinematographic style. I can't talk today. Sorry. Was just gorgeous in that first film. The way he would do quick close-ups on objects or slow down time a little bit. Is it still just as beautiful as the first one was?
Well, at the top, I mentioned one of my negatives. It's missing some of that for me. The unique, quote-unquote, gimmicky stuff from the first one, where you do the close-up on his eye, and he does his little stopwatch, and you slow down time, and you see that he's doing almost like the Sherlock Holmes, thinking about each step before he does it. There is a little bit of that in this, but it's mostly gone. It's mostly been abandoned from what I could tell. And I really liked that. Maybe they felt it was too gimmicky or too samey at this point, but it is missing from this movie.
You almost do the work out by yourself, though. You almost like they will show him staring, like you like he has such a presence, and and so you almost like do the work yourself of what he's figuring out and what he's doing. So
and it might be a smarter move than I thought. If that was in this movie, I might be saying, "Oh, I'm done with it now. I'm tired." So you don't kind of know what you miss sometimes.
Yeah. There you go. That is The Equalizer 3, also in theaters. You can check that out. I think that's a recommend from both Ian and I to check that out. It is very violent, so just be aware of that. On to the best ever challenge. But before we do, a big thank you to our amazing Sift Pop members. Thank you for being a part of what goes on here at Sift Pop by supporting. Starts at $3 a month. You can check that out at patreon.com/SiftPop. If you'd like to do that, and lots of fun stuff you get there. We do a pre-show that you have access to at different levels. You can check it all out at patreon.com/SiftPop. All right, let's get into the best ever challenge. Best ever Kenneth Branagh movies, acting movies. So we will go number 5 to number 1. If somebody has it higher, we will
Trump.
We will make sure that we wait till whoever has it the highest gets to talk about it. Let's start with you, Ian. What is your number 5 Kenneth Branagh movie?
The Road to El Dorado.
Oh, interesting.
He's in it
First
somewhere.
I
haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember liking it. Full
movie.
disclosure, movies that he's acted in. So I really hate one of them. So this was always going to be on the list somewhere. So yeah, number 5. It's a fine DreamWorks. I wish they'd carried on along the Prince of Egypt line, but they didn't. And this is fun.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, let's not do hand drawn anymore." So
Yeah.
Let's do fart
I
jokes
like this
instead.
movie. It's a good pick.
Yeah, it's fun.
very nice. Andrew, why don't you go next?
This is where I have Valkyrie.
Nice.
Trump. Sorry, it's way late.
Trump!
My number 5 is Tenet.
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind,
That's
Aaron.
Trump.
All right,
That was
Ian,
my
back
number
to you.
6.
What's your number 4?
No, number 4 is Valkyrie. We can talk about it now, Andrew.
Hey!
Yeah, good. Goodness gracious, I like this movie a lot. When it came out, I was like, wait a second, Tom Cruise is playing a German. That's weird. That's so weird. I'm choking on my words. But this is a fascinating story to me. An attempt to bomb Hitler from inside his own party army. I think it's a really, really, really well done movie. Really suspenseful. That scene with the bomb in the briefcase and pulling off that plan is excellent. I enjoy it a lot.
All right. What about you, Andrew? What's your number 4?
My number 4, this is where I have Murder on the Orient Express.
Nice. Those are my honorable mentions.
Oh, wait, hang on. Trump. Did you not want to talk about Valkyrie?
I'll talk about Valkyrie real quick.
Go for it. Talk about Valkyrie.
I think that Valkyrie, for me, it was on a second viewing that I really started to appreciate this movie. Like, I kind of liked it the first time. I think maybe I was just overwhelmed because so much happens in this movie that by the time you get to the ending, it's just insane. But on that second viewing, you really appreciate the acting, not only from Tom Cruise, but like the rest of that cast is extraordinary, including Kenneth Branagh. So yeah, I highly, highly recommend Valkyrie if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unlike any other war movie you're likely to see.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right. I don't think anybody's trumping my number 4. Number 4, I had Much Ado About Nothing.
I knew it.
I had to pick the only movie on my list that includes both Kenneth Branagh and Denzel Washington. They're both in this movie together. So this is a great Shakespeare adaptation. I think it's really funny. I think Robert Sean Leonard is great in it. Keanu Reeves is also in it. And then there are other people who are great in it. Michael Keaton is great in it. There's so many people in this movie. And it's just a lot of fun. So check it out.
Looks so wrong. It's not right. He's not growing it right.
Yeah, check out Much Ado About Nothing. It's classic and it's really, really good. So, yep.
Nice.
All right, on to our number 3s. What do you got?
Murder on the Orient Express. Andrew, I'll let you go first. Just gonna one up you each time.
That's where that
He's
works.
waiting to hear what you say, and then he's putting that at his next number.
Yes.
That's how this is working.
Yeah.
Tell us why you like MOTOE.
Moat.
Moto, as we call it in the industry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ian.
Oh, me? I was waiting for Andrew
your
to go.
pick.
Sorry,
No,
I
you
keep
got it
stealing his
higher.
thunder.
The person who has it higher talks about it.
Is that how
first.
this works?
Yes.
I haven't been on this show before.
Have you ever been? Yeah, I was just about to say, have you ever been on this show, Ian?
As I said before, it was a pleasant surprise. An incredibly stacked cast, which is like one of the things that drew me. What made me watch it was that I was like, if nothing else, I'm going to see some incredible actors do some shit. With Kenneth Branagh leading them. And yeah, I think it's really gripping when he loses his proverbials at how everyone is a bugger and everyone is just not nice and they're liars and criminals and the whole shoot me now, just it's so good. Like he just goes full Poirot in his first outing and it's so good.
It is so very good. Andrew, talk about it.
Yeah, it's a feat to make a movie that a lot of people have seen the original version of, still like suspenseful. Like I knew the ending. I think a lot of people knew the ending to this movie because I think it's Agatha Christie's most famous book. I could be wrong on that.
I think so.
But so a lot of people know how it ends, but for me to still be there white knuckling as I'm watching this movie,
Right.
to the writing, the acting, it's an achievement. It really is.
I agree. Good stuff. Very, very good stuff. It definitely was in my honorable mentions. My number 3 is another one I don't think anybody has. You're just lucky I didn't put it at number 1. Number 3 is where I have Swing Kids.
Haven't seen it.
Kenneth Branagh is in Swing Kids. I just realized, Ian, like it needs to be like the first movie we watch when you're in town next time.
Yeah? Okay.
Just to see Robert Sean Leonard theme.
You're on a Robert Sean Leonard kick, aren't you? Look at that.
And Christian Bale singing, not singing, dancing. I went into Newsies there for a second. Christian Bale singing in Newsies. No, this is dancing. This is the most interesting way I've ever seen a movie fight the Nazis through swing dancing. So,
amazing.
Highly excited for you to check it out if you've never seen it. You may have to do some digging for it. I do not believe there's ever been a high def release of this movie.
Really? I'm not going to watch it with you then.
It's really, really good. Good upscaling. Good upscaling on my TV. So you should be all set. All right, let's get on to our number 2s. What do you got, Ian?
What about my number 3?
Yeah, I haven't trumped him yet. You got to wait for me to trump him.
No.
I guess I just assumed that you'd been trumped with your number 3. What is your number 3, Andrew?
You ready, Ian?
I'm ready.
All right. Tenet.
Oh, hell no. Not on my list.
That was the one you trumped me with.
Tenet.
So talk about Tenet.
Okay, yeah. It's not my favorite Christopher Nolan film. I think that this is the movie you could say that he really overestimated the audience's ability to follow along with the complexity of his stories. But having said that, some of the best visuals I've ever seen in movies are in this, especially like the scene where they blow up a building in reverse time and then they show it in real time right afterwards. It's one of the coolest scenes.
Well, they blow the same building up in 2 different time directions at the same time.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I just probably phrased it weird.
This is exactly why I'm out.
It's too cool. Too amazing.
I couldn't follow it. I feel like this movie makes me feel like the dumbest person in the world. And I love Inception, so I know it's not me because I get it. This one just went too far for me. I need to watch it again, but I really did.
I've seen this movie, I'd say about 4 or 5 times now, and it's still very difficult to follow. I think that Interstellar was like the chef's kiss when it comes to making a movie complicated but still accessible. Like they did a good enough job until the end. Yeah. The ending, believe it or not, I just watched this movie a couple days ago. The ending is starting to not bother me as much as it did when I first saw it. The whole love is the answer to everything. I don't know why we're talking about Interstellar when I'm supposed to be talking about Tenet.
I love the ending to Interstellar, but that is not a surprise.
Yeah, it's definitely not bothering me as much as it did. But Tenet, I think that Christopher Nolan kind of, pushed the envelope a little too far, but it's still a remarkable movie nonetheless, and it kind of saved the film industry during COVID. To let you know, movie can.
That's right. Yeah, single-handedly saved the film.
That's
industry.
Probably why I don't like it. It was the only movie I saw in the pandemic, and I just came out of it going, I risked COVID for that. I'm just confused.
I ate popcorn through a mask for this. I had it at number 5. It is I think an incomprehensible film that I love. And I don't think it actually makes sense. So Ian, I agree it's not you.
Yeah.
I agree it's not you. I literally and I have studied this movie. I have studied this movie frame by frame for the entire movie. And its conceptual idea of going backwards and forwards in time and using that information the way they do in the movie is self-contradictory. So the movie is a paradox. And I think you just have to accept this is a paradox. It doesn't make sense. And then just go with what the movie is doing, which, by the way, the movie educates you on this very early on and says, don't think about it. Just let it happen. And
That's
I think
the second that it lost me. And
right. But that is Nolan saying, don't
Yeah.
try to figure this out. And I think he knows, in essence, that
He
it
should
doesn't
know
make
me
any
better.
sense.
Everything Nolan has taught us about his movies up until that.
Yeah.
And he should just really know me better. He should know that that's not going to be something that I'm going to let fly. Especially
Having
time travel, because I
having
love
said
time
that,
travel.
Having said that, it does work surprisingly well. Even though it doesn't actually hold together, the forward-backward stuff in the way it's conceptually put together holds together really, really well. There's some interesting ways he uses that actually do make sense if the paradox didn't exist. But it does. It's
You're
under
saying
there.
You're saying that on a technical scientific standpoint, it doesn't make sense, but the way it's used narratively pushes the story forward correctly.
And interestingly, and very cleverly. Like this, it's a really smart movie that just doesn't feel like it has to be completely theoretically sound. So that's my take. So, but I do love the movie. I really do.
I think you've
Tenet.
explained why I don't like it.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I think we're on the same page. All right, on to our number twos. What do you got, Ian?
Oh, me, Oppenheimer.
Me too.
Me too.
My number two.
Nice, number two.
Excellent.
We are tunanimous.
Yeah, we are.
I love it.
Too cool for school. Come on. It's Oppenheimer. I really just put it on there because you didn't invite me on the pod for covering that episode. I loved it. This is the quickest 3 hours that felt like 3 minutes. It went by so quick. It's such an incredibly well done biopic. Just excellent, outstanding. You don't even need the big.
You're objectively wrong on that pronunciation,
Biopic.
They're biopics. That is, they have never been biopics. Biopics is like a contact
picture.
lens.
Biopic. That's what we call it. Biopic. Biopic. It's not a
It is.
physio thing. Anyway, love it. Great movie. Outstanding.
Andrew, Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I had it on number two as well. The Trinity scene is so anxiety-inducing. Like, I know what's going to happen. I know it's a successful test. I know all of these things. But that entire sequence is just, fourth gear. I guess that's the best way to explain it. It's fourth gear. Your adrenaline is rushing through the entire sequence. Christopher Nolan, you did it for your first R-rated film. It didn't feel like he overused that rating in any way. Everything felt purposeful.
I agree. I know some people don't. I know some people think that the sexual stuff and the nudity was what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to say superfluous. That's not what usually people don't. They say gratuitous. I know some people believe that it was gratuitous. I actually think it really hits home for what he's trying to do about especially the scene in the boardroom. The scene in the boardroom is the most intense visual representation I have had for how the stripping of privacy feels.
Yes.
And and I think it's better because of how raw it is. So
It's
for me, it's the best scene in the movie.
Don't tell.
Yes. Thank you.
It really is.
Yes.
Yeah. For me, it is the best scene in the entire movie.
Yeah. Well, I think
I've never seen somebody so raw and exposed portrayed in such a way before. It's a brilliant way of doing it.
I think it's not necessarily my favorite scene in the movie. There are other scenes that I think the scene when after the bomb where he's in front of people and it's going from a crowd of, thundering feet to flashes of, people kissing and then, and I'm not going to go into all the details. I think that is just brilliant filmmaking. And there's so many things like that in this movie This movie was revealing itself to me for weeks afterwards. The things that he's doing with the ideas of fission and fusion, there is a very, I believe, specific reason he called the two segments of this movie fission and fusion. And I believe the scene at the pond is a nuclear reaction, and the cascading atom that sets forth this whole other domino effect, whether it was intended or not. It's just really, really brilliant stuff. The way the raindrops look like dropping bombs. I just like Nolan's brain. It connects with me in a really interesting way, and a lot of it is very clear on Oppenheimer, which again we talked about a lot of this on the review. So I'm always glad to bring it up again. All right, on to our number ones. Ian, what is your number one?
Dunkirk.
Dunkirk.
I have this. It wobbles between like my number one and number two favorite Nolan movies, and I'm fairly much on an island. People like Dunkirk, but it's not like really up there as anyone's favorite. I just think this is one of the tightest stories that Nolan has told, to be honest. Outside of like Following, is that the black and white one?
It's his first one,
yeah, the first one. I know you've got the weird time stuff where you have an hour a week, a day, whatever it is, and people get a little bit hung up on that. But it is the sound design on this film is visceral. It's so good. And you're just following this group of people through another famous point in history. I think it's an excellent war movie without being too gratuitous, kind of with all of the explosions and killing and whatnot. It's a great story. Those boats arriving, Kenneth Branagh's face, so good.
It was my first honorable mention. So yeah, I love Dunkirk. I think it's really, really good. Andrew, I think we probably have the same number one. Go ahead. What is yours?
Infinity War.
Infinity War, yeah, is my number one as well. Talk about it.
Where is
he's
he
in it?
Where he's the voice of something, isn't
he's the
he?
very first voice you hear in the entire
That's
movie. He's
nonsense.
Guardianship.
You cannot count that. That is absolute.
Ian, when it's your show, you can make the rules however you want. He is in that movie. It counts.
I'm leaving. Can I get out of this show? It does not count.
It does count.
Veto.
It is
Veto.
It is best ever movies Kenneth Branagh is in. He is in that movie.
It's not the spirit of the thing, isn't it? You're not going to talk about
the spirit of the thing.
The spirit of the game is best movie, not best performance.
Did you make the stars? Did you create the heavens?
This is some nonsense. What is the point? El Dorado should be talked about more than this movie.
He does just as much work in El Dorado as he does here. He's voice acting.
That's why I had it at number 5, not number 1.
This
there you go.
It's remarkable.
It is remarkable. It is remarkable.
It's remarkable for half.
We talked about it a lot. Unless you have anything you'd like to add on the Aaron.
No, I love it more and more every time I see it. I think it's really good.
Is it your first in your MCU ranking, or do you still have the first Avengers?
No, I still have the first Avengers higher just for.
You can't say the first Avengers because that could be Captain America. First Avenger.
The first Avenger, which I also like more than most people.
It's just
but
Star Wars, okay?
Yes, that's right. Just Star Wars. Let's talk some honorable mentions. Andrew, why don't you give us the picks of the gurus?
I can do that. The third highest pick was Dunkirk.
Okay.
The second highest pick was a movie none of us even mentioned. That's Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Sure.
Yep. Honorable mention.
I am not, as it is infamously known, I am not the biggest Harry Potter fan, but I do remember enjoying this movie more than most. So this is one with the big snake, right? The basilisk.
Yeah, that's it. And the Cerberus and the flying car.
Yeah. I'm actually reading the books right now for the first time. They're good. And number one is Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Good choice.
Yep.
Honorable mentions, Ian. What do you got?
I had Chamber of Secrets and nothing else.
Nothing else you've seen.
Anything else.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you one of my honorable mentions that I really do think you need to see. Maybe we'll do a Kenneth Branagh night and do Swing Kids in this one. Dead Again. Need to check out Dead Again, especially if you were looking for something a little more haunting and scary with your Haunting in Venice. Dead Again is a really interesting suspense horror thriller. Kind of fun thing. So
nice.
One more movie that we haven't mentioned, I'll just throw it out there real quick, just because it's the most authentic version of the story, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. You may not like the movie because it's not like what a lot of people expect Frankenstein to be, but it's the closest adaptation we've gotten to the book, which is a good book.
My research also said he was an extra in Chariots of Fire. So I wanted to mention Chariots of Fire as well.
Who wasn't?
Was he one of the runners?
Probably. I don't know. All right. Well, there you go. There's the best ever challenge. Let's get to the SIFT. Buried treasure. What is that one thing in any area of pop culture that you want people to know about? Ian, you're our guest, so you will go last. I will kick us off.
Do it.
In the pre-show, I hinted and teased that Star Wars would be a part of my buried treasure story, and it's because this is a movie that came out the week before Star Wars did, and absolutely bombed at the box office. And in the same way that Star Wars is often said to have kicked off summer blockbusters, the idea of big summer movies, this is kind of the final movie of an era of big budget, darker movies, not, heroic characters. It is William Friedkin's Sorcerer, came out the week before Star Wars. This movie is amazing. This is one of those movies that you just have to stop every few minutes and go, how did they film that? How did that happen? Because Ian and I were texting on the night I was watching this, we both ended up watching it. So I know, Ian, you've seen this as well. But this movie has, I'm going to say, 5 or 6 set pieces that just kind of blew my mind. And I don't want to give any of it away. The visual you're seeing on the screen is one of them. That's of the truck that's tilting on a wooden bridge. The title is a little misleading. It's the name of a truck, and there is this idea of being cursed or those kind of things. But it's not a spiritual tale. This is a very direct task that's being handled here of transporting dynamite.
Is this based on a true story?
I believe so.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Maybe it is. So anyways, Sorcerer is my buried treasure, and it's a huge, huge recommend. Ian, did you have anything you wanted to say about it?
Oh, no, you can't. I don't want to say anything about it because you just need to go in and watch it. But if you are of a nervous disposition, speak to your cardiologist or doctor first, because this is not a double screening movie. This is you will be rewarded for watching every single second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a MacGyver scene in this movie that is just
so good.
No words are spoken for like 10 minutes, and it's amazing. Like it's just it's so good, so good.
And I couldn't guess where they were going with it until it happened, and then you're like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
I knew where they were going. Like I actually had the thought, oh, why don't you just do that? And then they did what my brain said.
You nerd.
So yeah.
You'd be fine in this situation, Aaron, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I would be. No, I would not
No,
be.
you would
I
not.
would not be.
I've seen the Hollywood sign.
Andrew, what is your buried treasure?
Real quick, I was looking up to see where you could watch Sorcerer.
I don't believe there's anywhere to watch it if you don't have a copy of it. So
yeah. Okay. Well, my buried treasure is the most unburied treasure in the history of unburied treasures. It's going to be Baldur's Gate 3.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest video game in the world right now. If you haven't heard of it,
Yeah, I haven't heard of
so
this. Completely missed me.
basically, well, what's that?
I said it's completely missed me. Haven't heard of it.
You're joking, but
Yes,
I have
sorry.
no idea what this is.
You know, you're
So-
lying.
Do you really
listen
not
to
know what this
podcasts.
is?
No
Have you not-
clue. No clue what
Okay.
this is.
Where have you been?
In the
This-
place
okay.
where I don't care what video games come out? I don't.
But you must have accidentally. Me and Danae have mentioned this game to you.
But you understand, like saying a name of something doesn't mean I understand what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, sorry, my mistake.
Fair enough. So basically, for those of you like
If
Aaron,
I
who do
said
not
if
know
I
what
said
this
something
is-
about a sports team or something, you wouldn't register that. You wouldn't.
Of course, I care about you as my friend, Aaron.
All right,
so I
fair,
would
fair.
know
That's fair. I have to care
It's
more.
important to you.
Tell me about this game that I already knew about and actually have been playing.
So this is the closest any video game has ever gotten so far to Dungeons and Dragons. Like,
Sorry.
it has dice rolls. It has every single thing that, like, mind flares, like different races, different classes, everything that you
The
would expect to see
spells?
from a 5e D&D campaign is in this, including all the adult themed stuff that every single Dungeons and Dragons campaign eventually finds a way to sneak in, either
Mhm.
something sexual or wildly brutal, like
Yeah.
killing somebody in an extremely brutal way. All that stuff is in this, and I love it all the more for it. Right now, I've recreated my favorite D&D character that I always
Nice.
play. So I have a tiefling bard, and he's going around and he's causing all sorts of trouble. This game is hard.
Yes.
This game is very
This game is
hard.
unforgiving if you error
Yeah.
and start a fight
Yeah.
you can't finish.
Save a lot. That's all I'll say.
F5.
Save your game
F5.
a lot.
Constant F5.
Yeah.
Quick save.
I
if
like
you- if you've
F5.
ever- yeah, F5.
Fast Five? I thought Fast Five was great.
Fast Five. Yeah, Fast Five guys. Five guys. But no, if you've been curious about D&D but you've never had anybody to play with, this is your perfect in right here. You can learn the basics of how the system works. The graphics are good, the characters are fun. I think this is one of, if not the best game that's come out this year. It may
You
be
have a
one of the
dungeon
best games
master of
ever.
sorts.
Yeah, you can learn how to be a DM. You can learn everything from this.
Oh, so I meant that the
Great.
game actually gives you a dungeon master of sorts. Because
Oh,
that was
yeah,
my
this-
biggest question, where I was like, but the dungeon master is a big part of D&D, and it manages
Yeah, there's
to
a,
pull that off
a
as well.
narrator who's the DM and guides you through everything. I love it. I really do.
It's really good.
I can't imagine a game less made for me. But
Oh, you'd be paralyzed by this game.
yeah,
Aaron. You would be out of it.
I
so
am
quick.
so thrilled that this is out there for people who would love it, and now I am well aware of it. Now that it's been mentioned by a friend.
Well, Aaron, don't forget you've actually played a D&D campaign at this point in your life.
Indeed.
You've done it now
Indeed, I have.
Mhm.
with the gentleman sitting across from, or I guess he's not
Indeed.
sitting across
Yeah.
from. Across the
Not today.
across.
Will be
Uh,
soon.
Ian,
This
what
is
is
the
your
first
Great
time
treasure.
I think my buried treasure has qualified as a buried treasure. I usually pick
nice.
something that isn't a buried treasure. But yesterday I watched a movie from 2013 called Europa Report. And I vaguely remember this coming out in 2013, but I just completely missed it. And this movie is completely made for me. This movie is so great. It's got middling reviews on IMDb and the internet and whatnot. I don't know why we aren't talking about this movie more. Actually, I think I do know. I think it's the finale, perhaps, but this is a really, really cool story. The basic premise is it's the near future. We've discovered water on Europa, one of the moons that orbits Jupiter, and it's our best chance of finding life in the solar system, which is true today. It's absolutely the
Mhm.
most likely place that we're going to find bacteria or organisms of some sort, because it also has some heat in there as well. Now, for some reason, this movie decides that as a race, we've decided to skip going back to the moon. We've skipped Mars. We've skipped everything. And we've just put all of our chips into a manned mission to Jupiter. Like, forget a Mars base or anything. Now, all of this movie is a fictional documentary that is wrapped around found footage that's all inside the Europa space module that's going over there. So it's all changing from cameras to cameras, but you kind of forget about that because it's done so well. It's not like shaky cam nonsense. It's just observing these people on the mission. As you'd expect, stuff goes sideways. They have to the Martian themselves out of some predicaments. And there's just an excellent mystery that goes all the way through the movie as well. Just great sci-fi story. It's 90 minutes. It feels like a long episode of Star Trek, where like maybe the Star Trek, like one of the crews find these logs and are trying to uncover the mystery. I love the way it's framed, and yeah, it kept me hooked the entire time. So I think more people should watch this movie.
Very nice. That is Europa Report, available for free on Prime here in the States, or video demand. I think it's like $1 to rent. Baldur's Gate 3 is available for PC and PS5. In Sorcerer can be rented on VOD for $3, and it's well worth the $3 to rent.
Have you guys seen Europa Report, or do you remember it at all?
I think that's the first time I've heard of this movie.
That's incredible.
I'd heard of it. It was on my.
But I didn't know what Baldur's Gate 3 was, so don't come to me.
Oh my goodness, amazing! I really liked it. I enjoyed it. It's good. It's good stuff.
There you go. Well, we did it, guys. We did a podcast.
Yeah, we did.
Thank you for staying up till 3 a.m, Ian, or whatever it is.
You're not kidding. It's 2:46. Yeah.
Oh
We're there to do a podcast. We really do appreciate it, and appreciate you being here. And thank you for joining us for Sif Pop today. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out again today.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Big thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Thanks, Phil.
And thanks to Ian Whittington for coming by again. Ian, where would you like to point at for people to come find you?
Come hang out on Twitter, I guess, at Whitsend. And if you like Star Trek, or if you don't like Star Trek, come and listen to Captain's Pod, a Star Trek companion podcast. We're currently going through season 4 of Lower Decks as it lands with Danae, a relapsed Trek fan who's trying to find her way back into the final frontier.
There you go. Check that out.
I have that written down for once.
Check that out wherever you get your podcast. Much love and gratitude to our Sif Pop members. Thank you for supporting what goes on here and keeping us going. That support starts at $3 a month, and you get access to bonus episodes at different levels, as well as some other fun perks. You can find more at patreon.com/SifPop. Lots of ways to connect with us. Feel free to leave a comment, a rating, or a review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. You can actually email us, feedback@siftpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too. So make sure you let them know about it, and that listening is much easier than getting a good cup of tea in a Naples coffee shop. We will be back next week with more movies. Playing catch-up probably still. Maybe going with a couple movies we haven't seen. And then also anything new that might hit our fancy. So we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for hanging out with us, guys. Nice active chat tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it. Saw Lolly in there, and
appreciate Lolly backing me up on some pronunciation stuff as well.
Biopic. Come on.
Biopic, yeah.
Is that what people really say in England?
In England, it's biopic, yeah.
Wow.
You sound really dumb when you say biopic.
No.
It's a biographical picture.
Nope. It's the opposite.
Biopic.
Biopic. Aaron's right. Biopic sounds like something you go to.
It's like a contact lens. I gotta get my biopics filled. Anyways, let's see. Slab hanging out with us with Lego. Yeah, good to see all you guys.
The Tuita.
Yep. Cool. Appreciate you guys. I'm gonna let Ian get some sleep. So we'll
I've got to
catch you
play
next
some
time.
Baldur's Gate. Thank you.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Okay, fine.
I'm not even trolling you. I have talked to you.
You have not talked to me about Baldur's Gate.
Game.
You haven't. Prove it.
I've got it in outtakes somewhere, I'm sure.
I would love to hear that. Listen, I am not beyond believing that you could have talked to me about this and I could have completely forgot. That is certainly a possibility.
Yeah,
I'm pretty confident it's not, though. I'm pretty confident you've never... you may have mentioned it around me, but you have never talked to me directly about it. I had no idea this was even a D&D thing.
You remember that time that you started talking to me about how excited you were about what you did for the spreadsheets for the Summer Sum game? Mm-hmm. And you saw me visibly gloss over and apologized. I feel like that's what you did when I started talking about Baldur's Gate.
No, it's not a game that interests me at all either. So, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Brilliant. Right, I actually am going to disappear.
All right.
You guys are the best. I'll see you stateside.
Yeah.